So welcome everyone. We are having a fantastic topic and guest today called How to Use Journaling to Honor Your Sensitive Needs and Set Boundaries with Mai Oliphant. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yay, me too. I'm just excited I came across you and you're just doing such neat stuff. And I just want to hear all about it. I want to hear about you and your story and how you got started journaling and how you think it can help people, because it sounds like your message is kind of amazing.
I'm so glad you think so. I started journaling when I was 8. And the reason I started journaling is because, so my parents moved to the United States and would move back and forth between Haiti and the US for work. But my sister and I didn't join them till I was 8 and she was 9. And when I moved to the US, let's just say my mom wasn't overly impressed with my personality, and that was kind of hard. And then also at school, I heard things that I had never heard before. just just interesting comments about my skin or Black people or hair or whatever, or even culture. And it was never done maliciously. It was not bullying. It was just their normal everyday comments that I had never focused on or heard. So I was feeling less than at home and I was feeling less than at school. And I just didn't know why I was feeling like this, or what was causing me to feel like this, or how to not feel so less than and sad all the time. And I say sad, but I was a pretty cheerful kid, but I think on the inside, I felt sad at alone times and stuff like that. And so I think I watched a cartoon or something where a diary was mentioned. And so I thought, oh, that's so cool. I get to write all my thoughts. Yes. And so I think I got a construction notebook, or I already had a notebook, and I just started writing in it. And I was just very surprised how therapeutic it was. It was just such an amazing way to help me understand that I was feeling like I wasn't good enough, and to help me work out that, you know what, this is the communication that was occurring towards me, the communication that was occurring towards me. But let me try to have a paradigm shift. So I always find that at the end of journaling, I would always just feel calmer and better and be able to say to myself, what must have, what were they feeling or thinking to say something like this? They are not bad people. They are not unloving. They just were feeling upset in some way or another that they needed to say or do this to me. And so it helped me to be just happier, even though, you're 8 years old. There's only so much you can process. You don't know the language for it and you don't understand the emotion for it. But I processed it as much as I could. Um, and it helped me just be more sympathetic, more compassionate, and also just more aware.
Yeah, wow. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I mean, I can't even imagine going through that at 8 years old. And I mean, wow, just like the incredible emotions you must have had. And I mean, it's really kind of an amazing, like one of my favorite things to do on these podcasts is to talk to people who are doing things like you're doing, where you've taken something that was so hard for you, an experience that you went through that was so hard for you, and you found sort of the gift of journaling. And now to be able to tell your story and to help others with that. I mean, that is, I think, to me, one of the most amazing things we can do. I mean, that is such an example of sensitive empowerment to do something like that.
Oh, no, thank you. That I One of the things that I'm really impressed is when I went to through your community before coming here. It was just so amazing and wonderful to hear everyone doing this, everyone finding ways to empower themselves, but not only that, but then to empower others. It's incredible.
Yes, that's the beauty, isn't it? For us to just be able to talk about our real experiences and the pain that we've had and the wounding that we've had in our past, and how, what I believe that all of those experiences make us who we are. And I mean, you've developed such an amazing level of empathy, and your ability to understand others is in such a deep, such a deep space for you. And now to be able to actually be sharing this with the world about, how much, and I know that people in our sensitive empowerment community and lots of HSPs listening, it kind of excites me in so many ways, because I know a lot of HSPs use journaling, and I know you're going to be giving us probably some really good information about journaling, but you're also going to be sort of inspiring people that haven't yet started. And that is also exciting to know that, like, you might be that person who connects to someone like that, who listens to this and is like really inspired, and perhaps can even start to change their life as a result of it. That's kind of amazing.
And it's the reason I share it. It's because it's not easy to share your inner story. It's not easy to share your story. It leaves you vulnerable. And especially as a sensitive person, you don't want to be vulnerable to others. It's extremely difficult. But if it makes you feel so good and so happy, and the experiences you've had feel so worth it, if someone else can walk away feeling good and feeling capable and feeling like, okay, I've got this, or I am okay and I'm good, and I'm more than good enough, I am fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of amazing. You must hear so many stories, is that this is, I mean, this is kind of what you do and what you're putting out into the world. I mean, you must just hear so many stories, and even to think about your own experience, like I can just imagine like the years of journaling from the time of 8 years old all the way to now. Like, gosh, maybe you could give some tips about like how can parents get their kids into journaling, and also just as adults, what that even, what it means to journal and what it's meant to you.
Oh, those are some wonderful questions. Or um, for us, the way we get our children to journal, they're only 3 and 6. My little one just turned 6. And so there's not a lot they can do, but we do have times on Sundays where we're just like, here are your journals. Let's sit down and just write whatever you want, or put a picture of however you're feeling, what you want to happen, and things like that. And they just love it. It lasts like a minute for them. But my husband and I also take out our journals and we do that. And I think, again, kids, well, not again, but like I think about this all the time, how much kids learn from just watching you. And so if that's something you want them to start doing, then do it and give them the tools to do it, right? Because there are many times where you think, oh, I'm doing this, so they're seeing me, so they know what to do. But if you never invite them to do it, or at least give them the tools to do it, then they might think, oh, that's mom's thing, that's dad's thing, that's not my thing. And so I think that's a great way to start for kids, is just having a time when you take out your journal, turn it into something fun or awesome for them. Yeah, what was the other question? I
Well,
forgot.
I wanted to say too, I like how you said, kids can, and in adults too, can draw in a
Mm-hmm,
journal too,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
There's the process of writing out words, but there's also the
mm-hmm,
process of drawing in a journal. And
mm-hmm.
I can just imagine like that could be such a special, because I'm picturing you as an 8-year-old kind of going through what you're going through, and not having an understanding of why people were treating you that way, why things were, I mean so much that you must have been going through during that, to move to a whole nother country and then also have that happen in school, and to be able to, I'm just kind of picturing, you must have been like coming home from school, and it almost, I've heard people talk about journals as almost being like their best friend. Was it like
Oh,
that for you?
yes. Yes, very much so. I knew I could pull out my journal and just go at it. And while of course my parents could read it would read it whenever they want. They never chose to. I always told them, okay, just so you know, this is my inner feelings. If you want to read it, please don't be upset with me for expressing things to myself. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a
So
private, right?
yeah, it is. It is. But sometimes because I've heard parents say, well, I always read my kids' journals, and I always tell them I'm going to, because I need to know what's going on in their lives. And my advice is always like, well, as long as you have some kind of open communication with your kid so that they're okay with that, because the power of journaling kind of fades if you're not doing it for you. For instance, I actually at some point in my life stopped journaling because people were telling me, actually, you that's not the way you journal. The purpose of a journal is so that future generations can see what was going on in your life and that time period. And so I started to journal that way, but it did nothing for me. And so I became very sporadic at it. I journal once a month, once every couple of months, or something like that. And it just I was like, wow, maybe I'm just too old now for a journal. Maybe journaling is something only a kid does, right? Of course, I was still a kid. I was a teenager at the time. But then I remember I had a friend who was telling me about her journal. I was like, wait, that's the way I used to journal. Why would I listen to someone else tell me how to write the best things for me, how to write the best way for my mental, emotional, spiritual, physical health? Everyone is so different. Why would I listen to that? And I started to journal that way again, and I regained that power. And I think that's the thing about journaling. You have to experiment with what works for you. It's not always a pen and paper. It's not always a computer. It could be a recording. Some people just like talking their thoughts, right? And as long as you are doing something where at the end of that session, you're feeling like pensive, you're feeling like you resolve something, you're feeling like you're on the way to resolving something, as long as you're getting something out of it, then you're doing it right for you. And so that would be my advice to anyone starting a journal or encouraging a kid to keep a journal, is that you need to write in such a way that you don't feel censored and you don't feel forced. And that can only occur if you're doing it in the right way for you.
I love that you're giving that message. I completely agree with you that I think that having a journal needs to be a private experience so that you're
Mhm.
not filtering through like, what is somebody going to think if I write this? Because
Yeah,
then it kind of blows the whole reason for journaling, right?
it really does. It's like, well, what's the point of that?
Yeah, we don't want to filter. That's the point, right? Is to be able to
Yeah.
really dive into all of that. And I've heard some tips like, for example, like I agree with you. I actually don't think that parents should be reading their kids' journals,
No, I
as,
don't.
especially without them knowing. I mean, I think
Hmm.
that's a violation to, and
Yeah.
it will be a break in trust, right? And then,
Yeah.
like you said, it takes it away from you to know that. And I think I've heard things like I've heard parents, for example, have like their kids have their own journal that the parents don't look at, and then for some parents, they feel like their kids might express themselves better in writing, so they'll
Mhm.
have a separate journal that they'll
Yes.
actually like write
Yep.
maybe back and forth to each other in this journal.
Yes.
You've heard of
Yes.
that?
Yes. Yes. I recommended to a friend to do that, and they started doing that. And it's it's like your child feels like they can share a piece of themselves with you without being judged, without being put down, and it opens such a huge communication system. It's very empowering.
Wow, I love that so much. I just, what a gift you're giving your children to do that. I mean, I just think that is so amazing. I know
Yeah.
some people in the community are asking some questions about, and maybe you have some tips, because a lot of people worry that other people are going to find them and then it stops them from journaling, or then might destroy their journals. I mean, do you have
Hmm.
tips for people about how
Hmm.
to just feel like it can be a private experience for them?
Well, okay. So I have a few tips. One is that find the most private place you can for your journal. if you can't do that, then maybe the best thing is to do it on a laptop where you actually like a private blog post where you're the only person allowed on there, where you actually have to enter a password and stuff like that to get in there. That could be something that you could do. But one of the things I've realized is that there is a freedom and not and being okay with people are not allowed to invade your boundaries, but they're going to do that sometimes. And so you have to figure out with yourself, like, are you okay with this person in your life knowing these things about you? This is the true you, right? When you journal, you're journaling the true you. And I've been working on not caring what people think when what they think of the true me is something that makes me feel bad about myself.
Hmm.
Because anything is hackable, right? Like they can find your secret spot. They can go online, hack your account. Um, it's only it can only be so private. I mean, again, you could also have a secret mailbox. I mean, there's just so many different ways you can do it, but that takes away from it if you have to stress out about something like that. And so you have to figure out what you're willing to reveal yourself with to yourself. And you have to figure out a way to stop caring what someone else thinks about your own inner thoughts. You have absolutely no control over anyone else but you.
Yeah, I think like we don't want to let that stop us from really having the experience, right?
Mhm.
And doing our best that we can to keep it private and holding
Yeah.
those boundaries is definitely
Yeah.
important. You
And
know,
one of the things I did when I was a teenager is I started worrying about that. So I created my own code. And
oh,
so
okay.
I would write the journaling code. But you know what happened is that I would constantly forget what exactly something meant. And it took something away. Try, okay, let me decipher this. Oh, this word means this word means that. And so I wasn't reading it in such a smooth way that I was just listening to my own story. I was too focused on listening the outside story. Like, I don't want anyone else to read this. I'm gonna code this. So the whole time I'm decoding it, I'm like, okay, no one else could understand this, but I'm having a hard time understanding me too. I hope that made sense.
Yeah,
Did
I
that
mean, I
make
think
sense?
it sounds like your message really is about just go into the focus of the journal experience
Hmm.
and less about focusing on all those external stuff as much. And then you
Yeah.
get the gift of that. So, what would be your tips? I know for some people who have never journaled before, it's like, do you have tips for them about how they would even get started? Like, do you recommend writing prompts or do you recommend just free flowing journaling? What do you think?
Oh, you know what? Again, it's all about your personality. Um, One tip I would have, and this is something that is really powerful to me, is make sure that you feel inspired by your journal. Like for me, I will show you my current journal.
Yay.
I always have it with me. This is my
Oh,
current journal. It's
that's
just an Emily Dickinson's pressed flowers and poems inside. And looking at my journal makes me feel good and makes me want to write in it. And so you don't have to go out and buy the most expensive thing or anything like that. Just get something that makes you feel happy to see it. This is my favorite pen. It's just a normal big pen, but it feels good when I'm writing with it, right? We all have that. We all have something like this feels nice to write with. So
yeah.
just like those little tiny things are helpful, but I definitely recommend journal prompts. For me, I feel like life itself is a journal prompt, but sometimes when I get stuck, and typically when I get stuck, it's because I'm avoiding thinking about something. But when I get stuck, it's good to do a journal prompt. But my sister in law, for instance, she likes a fill in the blank where they write something, they like, your favorite thing of the day was dot, dot, dot. Experiment. The best thing you can do as a newbie journaler is just experiment with different things and see what feels nice, what you're not forcing yourself to do. Again, it just goes back to just not forcing yourself to do something unpleasant because you're not going to keep it up. It's not
Yeah.
sustainable.
I like your suggestion about like having a journal that just feels good when you're looking at it, and having our favorite pen. I'm so particular about my pens too. It's probably an
Me
HSP
too.
thing. Like a
Maybe.
I'm like, I don't like it to hurt my finger when I
No, no.
need to write
It has
smooth.
to do. Yes, exactly, exactly. So
Yeah.
all those things, just experiment a little. Do like free flowing journal where it's blank and you can write in it. Draw a picture and see if that helps you express your day, yourself, your emotion better. Or find a journal prompt. Journal prompts are always a good option for moments like that, to be
You have a
honest.
lot of journal prompts on your website, don't you?
Oh, well, I have like 11 journal prompts for healing, but my social media page for me is a journal prompt. Like I have a question I ask and stuff like that. Just something to make you think and reflect. And yeah.
Oh, I like that. Tell us more how everybody can find all of this if they want to have some of your journal prompts, because I think there's a lot of HSPs that would love that.
Uh, well, you can go to my website, which is www.shapemylife, shapemylife.com. And then my social media handles are Shape My Life,
Oh, wonderful. And I'll
including
put
my
this in the
YouTube.
show notes as well if anybody
Okay.
needs it. Oh, I love it. Because you have like a download or something that gives
Mhm.
also if they go to your website, what do you
Mm.
encourage them to find on your website?
I encourage them to download, and it's right when they get there, download 11 journal prompts for healing. And the thing about it, whenever I say that, people always imagine like, oh, I have to heal from PTSD and from all these things. Life itself sometimes leaves little, sometimes big wounds. It's just a continual process of getting in touch with your inner self so that you can be the best you, so that you can show up in the world and just be you.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. You are such a beautiful soul.
Oh, you're so kind. Oh, your whole community is beautiful. I'm just like, oh my gosh, these people are so in touch with their inner self, and they're so helpful and positive. And it's interesting because one thing that needed to occur as I journaled and as I got older was I tried so hard to be compassionate, right? I think people are just, we want to be compassionate people, right? But we can go a little too far where we allow others to just break our boundaries,
Mm.
right? Where you're just like, it's okay, I'm helping someone. It's okay if they're saying this to me, doing this to me. I'm helping. They need it right now. And that is harmful. It's harmful to you, it's harmful to them, it's harmful to the relationship. And so I think one of the process of healing is setting good boundaries, especially with people who are constantly overstepping it or ignoring it because you're too sensitive.
Oh boy, we've heard that before, haven't we? That's not that. I love that you're talking about boundaries. And anybody that's listening to us live right now, if you have any questions, go ahead and put them into the chat.
Somebody said, I feel sleepy when I journal. Maybe it's really soothing.
Yes, exactly. You're probably relaxing, right? And I've talked about, sometimes I've called it, and Linda was commenting about that too. Sometimes I've called it vomit journaling, where it's like you just like, maybe you're feeling so overwhelmed, or just there's just so much going on and you just want to write it out, and like
Yep.
don't worry about the grammar and all
Yep.
that stuff, right?
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. Just get it out. And if you're feeling sleepy, perhaps like you're journaling, you need to just switch up when you're journaling, right? Or how long you journal for, or things like that. Because sometimes if I'm just like, well, what's going on in my head, but I'm really tired, that could happen. It's like meditating, right? Sometimes you just fall into this deep state of inner work, so to speak, and it can lead to you falling asleep but the inner work needs to be done. So sometimes just choosing a different time, or even a different place, like go to your dining room table, right, for a few
That's a good
minutes.
idea. I like that, to experiment doing it at different places. I even
Hmm.
love the concept of just like going in nature and connecting with
Oh
nature
my
and
gosh.
starting to journal. Do you do that?
Yes, so good. So good. I sometimes go outside in my lawn near my garden, and I just journal, and it's so peaceful, and it's so much easier to hear what you're trying to say.
Yes, I love how you were saying it's really about connecting to that internal part of yourself, isn't it?
Mhm.
And I know there's a question coming in about is like, is it the same book that you would do like maybe journal prompts versus like that free flowing journaling? Do you think that having it all in the same book is fine?
Yeah, it's whatever works for you. But when I have had too many journals, it could lead to just overwhelm
Yeah,
symptoms.
which journal does this go in?
Yeah, exactly. And it's just easier. I do have two. I have a bullet journal and this journal, but my bullet journal is more for analog purposes, or idea purposes, and while this is just the one that pretty much has all my inner thoughts.
I love it. How many of you listening right now are journaling? I'd love to hear from you. And I know Jill made a couple of comments that she's really appreciating your advice.
Oh, I'm
Um,
so glad.
and she said, I
It's
can relate to my both having a journal that's appealing and a pen you like to write with. I always seem to get answers when I journal, sometimes to questions I didn't even know I had.
yes. Yes, that is the power. You had so for instance, like I do journaling on social media, and I found at one point I was just so bored with my content. I was so bored, and I had to journal around that, and I realized that I didn't want to be vulnerable. So I wasn't sharing anything. I was sharing surface level things, which is great, but it loses the power when you're filtering yourself, right? And yeah, so that wasn't even something that occurred to me. I just thought maybe it's because I'm the one writing this that bores me. But if you're bored with what you're writing, then you are not writing what you really want to write. And if sometimes if you feel like you have nothing to write about, it's because you're hiding the thing you really need to write about. You know, once it's on paper, it's real. It's real. And even to yourself, you have a hard time being vulnerable. And so yeah, keep writing.
Oh, I love that. It can be a practice in vulnerability, isn't it, in a sense? And that's kind of powerful because really to connect with ourselves and to connect with others, we need to be vulnerable. So in a sense, it's a safe way to practice that. Um, and I'm thinking about like I know for myself, I like to journal too around when I'm feeling kind of stuck with something. You know, it's like or I'm noticing a pattern that's happening over and over again. Maybe I'm really reactionary about something in particular. And
Mm-hmm.
so I like to write it out. And I think it was Jill that was saying it's like you find that answer after you've kind of written it out a bit, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's always been just there. It just needed to be revealed. Um, sorry. I just saw how the chat. I'm like, wow, there's a lot of good comments here.
I know. I know our community. I knew that we were going to just love having you. And what do you think that your life, like, how has it been better because you've been a regular journaler?
I think it has allowed me to have more compassion for myself. I know that that's like such a patent answer, but like I can't give of myself if I don't have that compassion. So because it's allowed me to have more compassion in myself, and that is a continual work, it's allowed me to have more compassion for my husband, for my children, for people I meet. I'm just able to think more. I wonder what I could do to help this person's life. I wonder what's going on with them. Maybe I'll just say hi. Maybe a hi would is all they need, or just it's allowed me to be a better person, to be able to do that inner work so that I can just be present. I think when you don't do that, you're always in your head, and you don't know you're always in your head, but you are.
You can tell like you're so insightful and so
Oh,
aware. Like the
thanks.
very first post you did in the community, I was like, wow, she's so aware and so insightful. And I'm guessing that the journaling had a lot to do with that. You're being able to sort of constantly explore yourself. And I mean, I find that, it really shows when somebody's done that kind of internal work.
And it's continual. It's continual because I get so down on myself. I was like, oh, why wasn't I more compassionate or smarter in this conversation? And all the time, right? It's so easy. It is so easy to get down on yourself and to feel like you're not insightful enough, but you are. And it's you're a work in progress, just like everyone else. Appreciate the journey. You have to.
Oh, that's so beautifully said too. I just love it. Jill saying, "Yes, Mai, I agree." It's kind of like looking at your life at a distance when you journal. That's actually kind of true too. It's like you can
Yes.
kind of get some perspective about things, right?
Yes. Somebody mentioned, do you reread your journals? And I love rereading my journals. I used to reread my childhood ones, but they got destroyed in a flood. But
Oh
yeah,
no.
I know it was so sad, but I love reading them because I see how far I've come, and I see things that are a repeated theme that I haven't worked on.
I like that. And I just love that your connection to the concept of it helping to increase self-compassion too. I think that is such a huge one for us as HSPs. A lot of times we're really in our heads and it's such a busy mind, and to be able to
Mhm,
kind of get it out into words, like just writing can be part
mhm,
of activating that cognitive brain that supports the emotional brain. So it's such a incredibly useful thing to do. And I love your message that it's like it's about, you want to do it in a way that makes you feel good afterwards. Like it's for you.
mhm.
It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be done in anything like for somebody else, or you should do it this way, but it's
Mhm.
really about exploring. It sounds like that's the message you're giving.
Exactly. Exactly. I think especially right now there's a journaling trend, right? And sometimes people are using it just because it's like, oh, it's fun to just do this. And and I love what you said. It's for you. It's a good trend, but it doesn't work if you don't do it for you.
Mm, that is so beautiful. You are such a beautiful person, beautiful soul. I just am like love having
Oh,
you.
you're so kind. Thank you. I love the post you put the other day about, was that yesterday? Self-care. Oh my gosh. I was like, this woman's amazing. I love that post so, so much because it is completely, totally true that you sometimes start to feel guilty for wanting self-care when it's essential. It's like eating and breathing. You have to. And I notice even for my little ones, when they don't perform self-care in their way, when they don't get to play the way they want to or have conversations they want to, they're off balance. If it's true for even a little child, it's even more true for an adult.
Oh my gosh. It could, and journaling could be like a form of self-care too. I mean,
Oh
I think
yeah.
there's so many definitions for self-care, but
Mm-hmm.
I love the way that you're approaching it, because it's really is a self-care thing to do. It helps you. Uh, just like if we were to summarize all of this, what would you want to say, just sort of as a summary as to why journaling can really support someone?
Journaling is the way you get in touch with your self, with your thoughts, with your feelings, with your wants, and you use it to grow, to heal, to become better. But in journaling, you figure out the boundaries you need to set for yourself and for others so that you can have better relationship and an outward way. So journaling helps you have a good inward relationship so you can have better outward relationships as well.
That is so powerful what you're saying. And I completely agree with you that that is such a powerful relationship to develop with yourself, because it will absolutely impact you in a positive way in the rest of your life and everything that you do, your personal, professional, everything. I mean, I think it's such a beautiful way that you approach it. And I definitely encourage people to check out your website and to go on your social media to get those wonderful journal prompts. I love it. Um,
Yay.
Anything else that you want to make sure that you wanted to share today?
I think it's just what you mentioned about people being afraid of others reading their journal, and what I felt in the space of your community, which is don't be afraid to be you. Just be you, because you are the only one who's going to live for you. You're the only one who's going to have the effects of your decision almost 100% on yourself. And so just be you. And it's okay if others don't like that.
Mm, I love the message that you're giving. Just be you, connect to you, support yourself, honor who you are, set
Yeah.
those boundaries that honor who you are,
Yeah.
and connect to yourself through journaling like this. I think that is such a beautiful message, and I just am so pleased that you were here sharing this with us and with the world. And I know that so many people are going to want to visit your website and your social media and just stay connected to you. And
Yeah,
I'm so
please
glad you're
reach
in our
out.
sensitive empowerment community too, so we
I
can
know.
stay
It's
connected.
I'm so glad I found out there is such a community. I was so excited. I was so excited, and I'm so honored to have been able to be here. Thank you so much for the invite.
Oh, what a beautiful soul coming into our community. I'm just very happy about that. And I just wanted to share a couple things people were saying. They said, um, Lynn says, Mai, you're such a wonderful person. I love everything you shared. Oh,
Oh,
with the
thank
heart. Love it.
you.
Tina says, thank you with exclamation points. And Jill says, I love that, Mai. That is so nice to hear. Thanks so much, Mai and Julie. This has been great. Joycey says, thank you, Mai. You have a bright light that shines through. Oh, I
Oh.
totally agree with you. That is absolutely true. I see the same thing. You do have a bright light, and
Oh, you're so kind.
it's wonderful to spend a little time in your light.
Oh, you guys are so kind. You're definitely a light bringer, Julie. That's the word I'm looking for. And it was just wonderful to engage in this community. And so, such beautiful comments and questions. And yes, thank you for being here with
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. Thank you everybody for joining us live, and we'll be putting this out into the podcast so lots of people will be able to listen to it. Thank you, Mai, for who you are in the world and for sharing yourselves with sharing yourself with the world and with us. And it has really meant something to us. And I just want to thank you very much for that. So I'm
Thank you
just so
so
happy
much.
that we got to have our paths cross like this. And
I know, me too.
yay. Thank you, everybody. And thank you so much, Mai. And I look forward to checking you out and all your fantastic journal prompts. I'm actually getting kind of excited about that. So that's going to be fun
Oh,
to do.
well, I hope it's helpful. Please let me know. Reach out anytime for anything.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Take good care of yourself, everybody out there. And we'll
Yes.
see you in the community. We invite you to join us in the Sensitive Empowerment community. It's a wonderful place to be. So thanks again, Mai. Take care, everybody.
Hey,
Bye-bye.
bye.